I'm Jack Kennedy, and we're here to bring you the latest in MMA.
Hey everybody, my name's Hunter Boss, and what the boss says goes.
What is up everyone, my name is Keelan McNamara, and you already know what time it is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MMA Island Podcast. I am Jack Kennedy alongside Keelan McNamara and Hunter Boss. And today we have a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and get started with the news. There's a couple fight rumors that are going around, but namely the one we're talking about is Curtis Blaydes versus Tom Aspinall, maybe headlining the fight card in July for London. Hunter, what do you think about this fight?
I like this fight. Both these are probably debatably the two of the best ground fighters in the UFC or in the heavyweight division of the UFC, minus maybe Cyril Gane from this conversation. But we were seeing that Tom Aspinall is handedly a very impressive fighter on the ground. He could strike, he could wrestle, he could grapple. He's a jack of all trades right now. But we know Curtis Blaydes, and we've seen what he could do. He's like surprising us by showing that he can also stand up now for Curtis Blaydes. So these are two of the greatest mixed martial artists in the world at heavyweight competing against each other. I think this is going to be a really fun fight because not one of them are really just specialized in one thing. We thought Curtis Blaydes was just a wrestler. He's not anymore. You know, that's out of the window. We saw he could strike. He's got power. He can knock people out. He can if he wants. Both fighters can if they want. I'd say now this is going to be a really good fight. I hope this fight rumor is true. Before I wanted Tom Aspinall versus Tai Tuivasa, but I think I might want this one a little bit more. So Curtis Blaydes, Tom Aspinall should be a good fight.
Yeah, I like this fight as well. I genuinely do. And truthfully, I wasn't sure when I would ever say that about a Curtis Blaydes fight, but I am excited for it. Yeah, this is a really good fight, and it's a fight at a point that makes a lot of sense for once. Curtis Blaydes is actually on a bit of a tear. Tom Aspinall is probably the biggest rising star in the division right now, so it makes a lot of sense no matter what way you look at it. I like it stylistically for a couple of reasons, but my main reason is even if Curtis Blaydes was still wrestle heavy, he would have had to have been able to stand up and strike here. Because even if he'd taken Tom Aspinall down, Tom Aspinall is so good on the ground, and you can't just keep him on the ground because he will eventually find a way to punish you for keeping him on the ground. So this is a fight that I really, really like. It could be a very violent finish, or it could be a technical masterclass. It could be anything in between. So yeah, no matter what way you slice it, I'm excited for this fight.
Yeah, I think this is a great matchup. Beforehand, we did our whole heavyweight like matchup thing. We didn't even put this one in the conversation because we didn't think Curtis Blaydes was going to do what he ended up doing. What makes this fight interesting, I think, is Keelan, you touched on Hunter, you as well, is beforehand, the big question would have been the wrestling, but that's not really a question anymore because now it's how does Curtis Blaydes do in the striking with Tom Aspinall? Because I think Tom Aspinall, even if he does get taken down, which I think he would have good enough wrestling defense to really defend the majority of Curtis Blaydes takedowns, Curtis Blaydes might not want to go to the ground with him just because of how good he is. He just got a straight arm bar with like basically using just his arms on Volkov and made him tap to that. And if you do that to Volkov, you can do that to pretty much anyone in the heavyweight division. So does he want to go to the ground with him? If he does go to the ground with him, how can he neutralize Tom Aspinall? Tom Aspinall is so good at getting to his feet. The question is, how does Curtis Blaydes evolve his striking even further from his last fight to fight Aspinall on the feet? I can see this fight being really the majority of the fight on the feet, to be honest with these guys. I think they're going to cancel out each other for the most part on the ground. So it's how does Aspinall handle maybe the onslaught, because Curtis Blaydes is bigger than him, how that onslaught of Blaydes, and how does Blaydes handle just how well-rounded Tom Aspinall is. I love the fight. I hope we get another insane UFC London card. If this headlines it, I'm a big Tom Aspinall fan, and Curtis Blaydes had a great performance. So I'm with you guys. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this fight. So with that, let's go ahead and transition to the best of the best. And today, just a random one, but why not? It's fun. What's our favorite weight class going in the UFC right now? Hunter, what do you think?
This is a really tough one, guys.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I love bantamweight the best. No, bantamweight is my favorite division by far.
Yeah.
There's like 5 former world champions in that division just right now. There could be 6 soon if Henry Cejudo decides to come back. I mean, this is going to be crazy, guys. We're having like debatably the best featherweight of all time who's competing at bantamweight right now.
Yeah.
In Jose Aldo. And we have TJ Dillashaw, former bantamweight champion, Dominic Cruz, former bantamweight champion, Cody Garbrandt, if he ever wants to come back to bantamweight, former bantamweight champion, Peter Yan, former bantamweight champion, current champion, Aljamain Sterling. I mean, everyone from number 1 to number 15 in this division are extremely entertaining and extremely efficient in what they do. They are the best of the best in the world, and I truly believe that. Bantamweight, they can knock out each other, as well as still having the most extreme speed you'll see in any weight class other than flyweight. I mean, bantamweight is where it's at right now, guys. I mean, if you're not watching bantamweight fight nights and you're not watching bantamweight like fight of the nights, you are not doing UFC correctly. Bantamweight all the way.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's absolutely not wrong. Look, there's 3 different arguments you can make here, and you're not necessarily wrong with any of them. You can go with bantamweight, featherweight, or lightweight, and I think there's a solid enough argument there for any of them. However, for once, I am going with what the boss says, and I am saying bantamweight as well. I agree with him. I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in this by all means, I don't think we've ever seen any division as loaded as the current bantamweight division. Every single fighter from the rank of champion to number 10 is championship quality. And I mean, could go in and fight a top contender and win. That's what I mean by championship quality. That division is absolute insanity. Let's just round off some of the names who are in that division right now. Aljamain Sterling, the champion, Petr Yan, Corey Sandhagen, Jose Aldo, TJ Dillashaw, technically, but TJ Dillashaw is there. You know, and there's so many other people in that as well. You've even got the likes of Dominic Cruz, who are closer to number 10 than they are to the title, which is absolute madness. Like Hunter said as well, Cody Garbrandt, I'm guessing he will move back up to bantamweight following his Kai Kara France fight. He's back in there as well, most likely. I mean, as a division, it is just stacked beyond belief. You've got some of the best fighters on planet Earth who all occupy that division. And even if we look at the likes of Bellator as well, I mean, look at Sergio Pettis, look at Rafael Stotts, you know, guys like Juan Archuleta you could throw in there as well. Not just in the UFC, but in the world, bantamweight is just beyond anything I've seen in the last few years. Even guys like Pachi Mix, Kyogi Horiguchi, you know, they're all unbelievable fighters. So I wish I could go original and do what I normally do and basically argue with Hunter and everything. But for once, I have to agree with him. Bantamweight is where it's at right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys are right. Bantamweight is so stacked. I mean, look at let's just look at the rankings, right? Let's just go through the rankings. Let's go. So Sterling's the champion, arguably the best fighter is not the champion right now, which is ridiculous for this weight class as well. So like it could go all over the place. Petr Yan, number 1, Dillashaw, Aldo, Sandhagen, Font, Merab Dvalishvili, who we forgot about, Dominic Cruz, Vera, Song Yadong, Pedro Munoz, who's just fallen off, but he's still an amazing fighter. Look, the only one that's like, so Marlon Moraes retired. He's still up there. That's not updated. Our guy, Jack Shore, just made the top rankings. He's at 15 now. And Frankie Edgar's at 11. So really, out of those, the only people I would really count out, 1, Marlon Moraes, because he's retired, and 2, Frankie Edgar, just because of age. Everyone else in there could really, it's fluid. It could go all over the place. So ridiculously stacked. And I agree with you. I think that's probably the best weight class. I'm going to give some love to featherweight as well. I mean, Volkanovski has really become one of the most entertaining champions in today's MMA, and he's so fun. And the division stacked as well. You got Holloway, who should be fighting him next, Ortega, Rodriguez, Cater. The only thing, Arnold Allen is one of the best prospects we've seen, if not the best prospect going right now in MMA, other than Chimaev, of course. Look, the only thing with featherweight is you just have such a dominant champion at the top, right? And so we're waiting to see if Holloway beats Volkanovski, that division's wide open. And then bantamweight's got a bit of a rival there because the division's open. But for right now, I agree with you guys. The other one, so my ranking as far as weight classes would go, I would say number one would be 135. Number two, I would do 155, actually. 155 has been stacked for years now. I mean, it's wild to look back at just like how the era of like Habib and Conor was the number one contender, and then you had Tony Ferguson that was always there. And then now today, right, we got Oliveira Gaethje, which I am so excited for that fight. That's next week's podcast is going to be all about UFC 274 because I am just so pumped for that. You got Poirier still in there. He's probably going to go up to welterweight, but Makhachev, Beneil Dariush, Chandler, RDA, just top to bottom. Look, it's not as stacked as the previous two divisions, but excitement level, it matches them at least. So yeah, the UFC divisions, I really think past couple years have been the best that they've ever been. But I agree with you guys. Bantamweight right now has to be the most stacked. It's every single fight. Not only is every single fighter good, every single fight at bantamweight is a good fight because it's just the fighters come to fight. So I love it. Well, speaking of bantamweight, let's move on to the pick of the night and upset of the night as well. So we have a bantamweight matchup between Marlon Vera and Rob Font. Hunter, what is your prediction for this fight and your upside of the night for the card itself?
My pick of the night is going to be Rob Font, even though he did miss weight recently. I don't know if that'll affect him too badly. It shows that, he was at least trying to cut the weight.
Yeah.
But he will, I think, have the power advantage in here now that he missed weight, as well as the speed. And I'd say he has a better boxing advantage as well. I think he's one of the best strikers in the division alone. There's only very few other people that can beat him in terms of striking, and that is the featherweight GOAT, Jose Aldo. I mean, like, Rob Font is extremely talented anywhere he goes. If he needs to go on the ground, he can and he will. And if he stays on the feet, it's just a ticking time clock at that point. If you're Chito Vera, it's just how much time is it going to take before you're either going to get completely washed, 25 minutes down the drain, and you lose handily, or you get finished, in my opinion. So I have Rob Font here winning by, I'll go second round TKO. And for my upset of the night, I'm going to go with GM3. Gerald Mearshot's going to beat Krzysztof Jotko. I think that's an extremely weird betting line, how he's the underdog. I mean, he has the second, Gerald Mearshot, GM3, has the second most submissions in middleweight history right now. A very, underrated statistic that people don't bring up very often. And though he does lose to some of the big names like Hamzat Chimaev and Eric Anders, but those who aren't necessarily very big in the weight division or very like well known for themselves don't often win against Gerald Mearshart. GM3 is the ultimate gatekeeper, because I really do believe that this man will be everyone but the best. So I'm going to go GM3 by submission, rear naked choke. I'm going to go. And you guys know why? Because what the boss says goes.
All right, fair enough. First of all, main event. Gotta say, I'm very disappointed with Rob Font personally. Made it down to, I think it was 138.5 pounds and just stopped cutting. Gotta be honest, that's not a good look for him. That means we can probably see a featherweight move in the future for Rob Font, which I think would be pretty epic, actually, I have to say. But on to the actual fight itself, because at the end of the day, that is what we're here for. I think Marlon Vera is getting slapped on quite a lot in this fight. Admittedly, I understand why, because Rob Font's a brilliant, brilliant fighter. But Chito Vera can hit you from anywhere. I mean, look at the Frankie Edgar fights. Frankie Edgar was controlling the octagon generally very well in their fight, and then he got an up kick to the face that nearly broke his jaw entirely, which was absolutely insane, by the way. So I think this is a much closer fight than many people think it will be, honestly. I understand why Rob Font's the favourite. I think his footwork and his octagon control is second to none. I think especially in the Cody Garbrandt fight, he showed that to a T. And Cody Garbrandt does generally fight quite similarly on the feet to Marlon Vera as well. They've got that explosive, output style as well. So it does make a lot of sense. That being said, Marlon Vera always has the X factor. He can always bring something out of nothing. And I could see him potentially catching Rob Font with something. I don't think it'll be another up kick because I think Rob Font's too quick to get caught by that. But I can definitely see Rob maybe trying to take down and getting a knee, something like that. So on the one hand, I will see Hunter's prediction because I think it makes a lot of sense. But as an X Factor prediction, I'm going to say Marlon Vera third round knockout, just to be different. And because Marlon Vera does have the capacity at least to get it done. And then for upset of the night, I actually, again, this is very boring from my perspective because I do agree with Hunter. The fact that Gerald Meerschaert is the underdog in this fight, I'm very, very surprised by, because Gerald Meerschaert is a hell of a fighter. And like Hunter said, second most submissions in UFC middleweight history, which is an incredible statistic that people do not pay enough attention to. You get the fight to the ground, you don't want it to be Gerald Meerschaert when the fight gets there. I think Gerald Meerschaert does pick up another submission. I don't know if it'll be a rear naked choke or not, but I think he definitely gets the job done.
Yeah, no, I think those are great. The Gerald Meerschaert's crazy that he is that odds. So, anyways, for the Font Vera fight, it's weird. It's funny. Hunter and I were talking before we came on, and it's funny that Keelan, you mentioned the 145 move because that was one of the things we were talking about. Maybe a topic for another day. It should be. The weight miss is very interesting, and it both, I think, could benefit and negatively impact Font. I lean towards maybe the negatively impact because I think he did try and get down. I think it's going to drain him a little bit more. That being said, I think Font is just such a good fighter. I think he is. Both these guys obviously lost to Aldo, but Font is just so well-rounded, and matchups are everything. I mean, Vera is the bigger guy here, right? And he might even have he's got great power and he can hit you from anywhere, like Keelan said, but Font is just so fast. His hands are so fast. And I really think he has better octagon awareness and fight IQ as opposed to Marlon Vera. And he's also, the other big X factor is Rob Font has more experience against these top guys at bantamweight. He's been in this scenario before. Marlon Vera, not really. So, for those reasons, I'm going to say Font by a decision. I'm going to say it's pretty close. I don't think he's going to finish Vera because I think Vera is tough. This is a big moment for him. Vera might even come on late, but I'm predicting Font to win by a decision. And maybe after this decision, we start to see him contemplate to go up to 145, which is a very interesting conversation to start having. But it's interesting. I'm kind of caught in the middle in this fight. I could see Vera winning. I could absolutely see him winning by a knockout, but I think I'm leaning towards Font just based off of pure technical ability, I think is why I lean towards Font in this one. For the upset, look, Gerald Meerschaert, I searched the odds before we did this and I was shocked because you go through who's the underdogs. He should not be an underdog for that fight. That being said, let's mix it up a little bit. I'm going to go Tristan Connolly is an underdog against Darren Elkins. Look, Connolly is not a sure fighter to bet on ever, but he is solid as it comes. And the reason you should pick him right here in this fight is because of who he's fighting. He's fighting Darren Elkins, who's a guy that will go out there, be a zombie for the entire fight, guaranteed, and either knock you out or get knocked out or lose a decision where his face is just completely mushed. So for that reason, I think I go Connolly over Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins also usually wins fights in bunches, so he'll win like 2 fights, drop one, drop another 2, and then win another 2 or 3 fights. He's one of those guys that goes like momentum swings. He's on a couple losing fights right now, so I think he's going to lose again. I think Connolly's, again, never really a sure fighter to bet on, but in this fight, he's more consistent. He's a more consistent fighter than Darren Elkins is. So, look, if you're going for the absolute safe bet, I agree with Hunter and Keelan. You go the way of Meerschaert, but I think another one that you really should look at, and the odds for this one, you get plus 150 for this one, which is pretty solid odds. So, Tristan Connolly, something to look at over Darren Elkins. And for the main event, I'm picking Font by a decision over Marlon Vera. And guys, you know why those were the picks? Because if you want the facts, you listen to Jack.
I like that.
There we go.
I like that. So, every
well
time
done.
I hear it, it's like the first time, Jack. I hope you know.
Thank you.
Now, just to add on real quick, I really like the Tristan Connolly shout. If you guys don't remember, Tristan Connolly is the guy who beat Michel Piera at welterweight.
Yeah.
Now he's fighting at featherweight currently. I mean, this guy is really talented, especially against us heavy strikers. Darren Elkins is a pretty heavy striker, this guy he could take damage. He gets bloodied up, but we've seen him come back. That's his thing. But Tristan Connolly, if he just stays in the ground, I feel like Darren Elkins is going to have a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So good shout, Jack.
Yeah, that is a good shout. I second that. Darren Elkins can be in real trouble when he gets to the ground. Tristan Connolly's really good at getting to the ground, so that could definitely spell trouble for Darren Elkins. I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Mershard's the obvious way to go because he could drown anybody, especially that. But yeah, we'll see. Should be a good fight night, another sleeper fight night. And next week we got UFC 274, which I am buzzing for, guys. I am so excited for that. I can't wait to break that down. But as for today, thank you everyone so much for listening to the podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. You can listen to us everywhere, literally everywhere, including iTunes and Spotify. Follow us on Instagram at MMA.island and check out our website, MMAisland.net. Great podcast, guys. Thank you everyone so much for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.